I went to the garden center today and bought 2 more of this plant to plant here. These are Euonymus, Boxleaf Euonymus. A little 6-pack of Zinnias to plant a little more in here just for some additional color for a few months. This is a Chitalpa that I'd seen talked about. It's called a desert willow. It gets these really pretty flowers. I'm trying to find the spot. It was kind of an impulse purchase. And then the last thing I bought is that juniper over there. Skyrocket, it's blue. I love the blue junipers. I have that one's supposed to be blue over there too. So I'm digging the holes to put the Euonymus in, and I wanted to show how clay-like our soil is. So we have a combination of red and gray clay. So this stuff you could put it into any shape you want. You have to break it apart and mold it around the plant. Normally I have to push it into the ground and mold it back into the sides so that it will stay put. We get these big chunks of clay, and you can see the slice the shovel made, and it's completely stable. It doesn't fall apart. You have to really break it apart because it's such thick matter. I did put some gypsum in the soil in an attempt to I'm like straining to get this stuff to break. There. To break it up. Supposedly gypsum will break it up. You do have to continually add gypsum apparently, which I don't do on a consistent basis because I thought I read somewhere it wasn't good for the worms. So you have like this double-edged sword, improve your soil, but the worms won't come. Not sure if that's true, but I read that somewhere once and I have used that as my rule of thumb. I just add a little bit here and there every now and again. So generally what I do is when I plant, especially a shrub or a tree, I plant it on a hill because this land isn't going to drain very well. So I'm trying to keep water from accumulating around the base of the plant. Now this one ended up being a little higher, but it's going to slowly decay. What I don't want is to create like a ceramic pot around this. So I try to break up the soil to give the water somewhere to drain. So the hole, I'm going to make the hole a little bigger. I already dug it deeper and I put soil back in as I try to lift it up. I'm probably going to plant this plant at least an inch above the soil level to help give it a chance to breathe. But you can see here that this guy, the tree, the redbud, is planted probably 6 to 8 inches above the soil, because what I find is that as the soil that the tree came in decays and things start to compress, the tree starts to drop down. So I'm hoping that by the time the tree reaches the soil level, as it decays, the soil will have improved enough to provide the drainage it needs. I'm not sure if you can see it, but I did build it up a little. There's a small hill. I plan to plant this one higher. This is the pile of rocks that I came into as I was digging, which basically stops the shovel in its tracks, and you have to dig around them to get them out. Now, I could put them back, but it just makes next time more frustrating, so I don't put back a lot of the bigger ones. So this is what we ended up with. I tried to plant all the zinnias near an emitter, and the Euonymus are planted not necessarily right next to a emitter, but the whole area was pretty damp, so I think we're pretty good in this case. So this last winter we did put some time into trying to improve the drainage for the soil. I forked the soil, and then we had a hole dug here in preparation for planting this tree, and the first storms that we got, this whole area just filled with water. In fact, the hole that was here just filled up as if it was a cup, and it maintained the water for several days, barely dropping at all. In the end, what we ended up doing was digging it out even more and trying to further dig down, probably past the hard pan, I think is what we ended up finally doing. And then the soil started draining after that next storm. We noticed that the soil didn't, the water didn't pool anymore. I did put compost and worm castings on the ground, trying to help the rain percolate it into the soil. So I think it helps some, and we'll do the same again this year. I'll throw down some more worm castings and compost to help improve the soil, in hopes that this doesn't stay quite as dense. I am concerned about water accumulation in this area since it was really bad last year. But right now everything seems to be doing okay. The red bud's looking pretty good, so I think it's gonna be okay, but I guess we'll see, won't we? It's all an experiment in the end. This was something I forgot to mention earlier. This tree, this Skyrocket Juniper, was heavily staked. So now I took the stake off because I find that they are overly staked and they have no strength. I also had to look very carefully for a tree that didn't appear to have all its side shoots removed, because the grower, whoever this is, usually cuts these down. And when I looked it up on the internet, it basically said junipers grow from the ends and not from the trunk. And so you would have to train everything out if you wanted to have a full plant, or you could plant that side against a wall, but this is going to be viewed from all sides. Anyway, so now I have to figure out how to stake it without overly staking it so it can develop strength. Kind of like what I've had to do with this guy. I think he's pretty close, his Chinese pistache, to being able to stand up on his own. For this tree, I wanted to clarify that we have staked it in various ways, trying to improve the trunk stability. But when we remove the string, this tree still pushes forward or leans forward instead of staying stable. I'm not sure it's obvious from this, but when I release the strap, it moves forward about a foot. The top leans forward about a foot. And so we've continued to keep it strapped, but it only has the one strap, so it moves pretty easily in the breeze in order to strengthen the trunk. You can kind of see maybe the curvature a little better on this side of the tree. The base is looking pretty good. It's just the top of the tree leans forward several inches, and I think in a significant windstorm, it would just snap. So that's why we've continued to keep it strapped. Last piece of today, everybody's coming out and playing in their pools and outside, so it's getting a little noisy, but I have gone after this a little bit, after this zucchini, Black Beauty, I believe is what it's called, to help thin the canopy. It was getting really thick, and what I've been doing is taking out the branches, the leaves, the stalks, out from below where the fruit is. It's my understanding that you can do that to help increase airflow and reduce the amount of energy the plant uses to keep leaves large and green and healthy, so that it can focus more on what is the growing part of the plant. So we have quite a few little zucchinis in here that are looking really good. And flowers everywhere. Oops, can you see the flowers?